Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. As-salatu was-salamu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een. Welcome to our next episode in our series, The Greatest Miracle After the Quran, the Seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In our last episode, we had discussed how the Muslims had come to Medina and they faced some initial difficulties. However, the brotherhood that the Prophet ﷺ established and the motivation that the Muhajirin had to not just rely on others but to stand on their own feet, it helped the Muslims the Muhajirin to get established, and the open hearts and the open hands of the Ansar really helped. Now, the next thing that the Prophet ﷺ did, or what can generally be categorized in the events of the first year of Medina, the Prophet ﷺ wrote something called the Constitution or the Covenant of Medina. And we're not going to go into too much details about that, but this document is a historic document for the time in which it was written and how it protected the rights of minorities, how it laid the foundation for multiple communities of different faiths living together in peace. Because remember that the city of Medina was made up of three faiths. It was the Muslims, the Jews, and the Mushrikeen. And this constitution, it protected the rights of all, gave everyone internal independence. However, each one of them was responsible towards the state of Medina altogether to defend it, and to, if there are any problems, they're supposed to protect it together. If there are any crimes, no one is supposed to give shelter to any criminals. So if a Muslim does a crime, Muslims are not supposed to protect him. If a Jew commits a crime, the Jews are not supposed to protect him. So, and then the Prophet ﷺ wrote a separate agreement of a different nature with Jews, and giving them even more internal independence, and making an agreement with them that if Medina was attacked from the side of the Muslims, then the Muslims will not, if the attackers wanted to attack the Jews, the Muslims will not allow that attack. And if attackers wanted to attack Jews, if the attackers wanted to attack the Muslims, the Jews will not allow that. The Jews will not allow that. You want to say Assalamu alaikum? Say Assalamu alaikum. Okay. Can you please close the door? ये भी ले लो, जाओ जाके नीचे रखो इसे गाड़ी में. Okay, come and show it from here. Look, come here. Look, this block is invisible. You see that?
Yeah.
You can't see it.
Yeah.
Why?
It's coming here.
Yeah.
Because you see, like if you do this,
You can see it.
when you see this,
Yes.
that's the block.
Yes.
But you can't see.
It's invisible.
But then if we put these two blocks under, then
Oh, wow.
they're not invisible. Then this one gets invisible.
You see, this green one is invisible.
Yeah. If you put these under,
Can you let me do my work?
and then now this one's still, now this one's invisible.
Yeah. Okay, now everyone please say bye-bye to Abdullah. Bye-bye, Abdullah.
My name is Jason Jackson.
Okay, all right. Come on.
Say Jason Jackson.
What?
Jason Jackson.
Jason Jackson? That's your name?
Yeah.
Okay, bye-bye, Jason Jackson.
But here you go, little kids.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Uh-oh. Okay, back to where we were. So the Prophet ﷺ wrote these documents to ensure the rights of everyone, but also to protect the state of Medina, and to basically establish a system. And this document, the Constitution of Medina, it said that if there was a dispute that could not be settled otherwise, then Allah and His Messenger have the final decision to settle that dispute between the community. So, Abdullah, can you please keep the door closed?
Mama said to give me mail.
Okay, not right now, please. Okay, I'm gonna have to be back.
What's really fun and I can't pick up it and Daddy said, please. Was it what?
I don't. Assalamu alaikum. So the Prophet ﷺ, after this constitution was written, the Prophet ﷺ then started to call. So now there's a internal agreement between everyone. Everyone's living peacefully. But of course, the call to Islam continues. So the Prophet ﷺ starts to call the other community to Islam as well. And you will see that many of the ayat that are being revealed in Medina are actually discussing or inviting the Jews, the people of the book, to Islam as well, and challenging some of their issues that they had with Islam. Now, at the same time, the Quraysh and some other people, some of the Jews that were basically, became enemies to the Prophet ﷺ because of their jealousy that he was not from among the Jewish nation. They started to cause a little bit of a rift, and here we see the rise of hypocrites, or the munafiqeen. These were basically people who realized that Islam is too strong to be fought publicly. So they came up with a way to try to hurt Islam and Muslims from the inside. And these people, they had different motivations. Some of them were basically undercover agents, and some of them simply saw that the leader of the Munafiqeen was a man by the name of Abdullah ibn Ubay, who was about to be crowned the king of Medina. But the Prophet ﷺ came and it was taken away from him, and the Prophet ﷺ was now the absolute leader of Medina. So he was jealous of that his power and position was taken, and as a result he became an enemy from the inside, and he caused many problems for the Muslims. So these were basically people who openly claimed to be Muslim and prayed with the Muslims, attended all the gatherings, participated in giving, when the Prophet would ask, what should we do? They would participate in that. So they were there at all of those occasions. However, deep down, they were actually not Muslims at all. And they used to meet privately, and we will see what they have done later on in the life of Medina, how many problems they caused. Now, after this, as these problems are arising, the Quraysh are still up to no good. And what is mentioned is that the Quraysh, they basically liquidated all the property of the Muslims, all the property of the Muslims that they had left behind, and they started to use that property to fund creating problems for the Muslims, even now that the Muslims are in Medina. So until now, patience was the command for the Muslims to follow. However, now the Muslims had the upper hand, and initially the permission was given to fight those who were fighting them from the Quraysh. And later on it developed into, so first it was just a permission, and then it became an obligation. First it was only Quraysh. The Muslims were allowed to seize their goods, but not of those tribes who were at peace with Muslims. Later on, any pagan tribe that was allied with Quraysh was allowed to be fought. Later on, any pagan tribe that fought with the Muslims was allowed to be fought. Then Jewish tribes who broke the covenant or the Constitution of Madina were allowed to be fought. Then the people of the book who harassed or persecuted Muslims were allowed to be fought. So then the military expeditions start. So the Prophet ﷺ, after he has been given permission, he starts to then transform this weak minority of people whose primary motivation is faith. He starts to then transform them into a fighting force, which of course they are not at this time. And that's why you see a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ, he praised archery and horsemanship. And he said that, to spend on your horse is a very rewardable deed in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to take care of your horse, to learn archery, to learn swimming, because these were essential skills at the time that were needed to protect Islam and Muslims in the city of Medina. And one of the companions, whose name was Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, he was an expert archer. And the Prophet ﷺ would say to him in one of those little skirmishes, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Irmi ya Sa'd, fidaka abi wa ummi," that shoot these arrows, O Sa'd, fidaka, may my parents be sacrificed for you. So this is something that we see from the Prophet ﷺ, and we see that throughout the early Islam, that the standing army came much later on. The standing army came much later on, specialized soldiers. Until now, it was just regular people who were farmers one day, and then when there was an attack, they would basically become the fighters. So then these Saraya and Ghazawaat began. So the Saraya refers to the word Sariya. It refers to an expedition or a mission that was sent out by the Prophet ﷺ, in which he did not participate. And Ghazwa was an expedition in which the Prophet ﷺ himself participated. There were four primary missions or four goals of these Saraya and Ghazawat. Number one was to protect the outskirts of Medina and gather intelligence about suspicious activities going on. Number two, to intercept Meccan trade caravans passing through the area. Number three, to establish covenants and treaties with tribes outside of Medina to basically expand the influence of Medina. And number four, to spread Islam throughout Arabia. The initial Saraya were led by Hamza bin Abdul Muttalib and Abu Ubaidah, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. In the beginning of second year, the Prophet ﷺ himself went out on a mission with 70 companions. All of these, they resulted in no fighting, and they got close and somebody intervened, or they didn't get to meet each other, or things like that, but no real battle took place, or treaties were agreed upon by the two parties. In the Rajab of second year, the Prophet ﷺ sent Abdullah ibn Jahsh with 12 people to gather intelligence on a caravan. They got close to the caravan to try to intercept it or gather intelligence. However, they were spotted and they were attacked, and they attacked back. And one of the guards of this caravan was killed, and two were captured. When they came back to Medina, the Prophet ﷺ was not happy with them, because Rajab is a forbidden month for fighting. And the Quraysh protested vehemently that why are you, how can you fight in the forbidden month? But the Prophet, the Sahaba, they said that we thought that it was not Rajab. It was basically the last day of Rajab. And they thought that the Rajab had finished and now the next month has begun. But it was Rajab, and the Prophet ﷺ freed the two prisoners, and he paid blood money for the one who was killed. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed ayat in the Quran. In Surah Al-Baqarah, He said, يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الشَّهْرِ الْحَرَامِ قِتَالٍ فِيهِ. قل قتال فيه كبير وصد عن سبيل الله وكفر به والمسجد الحرام وإخراج أهله منه أكبر عند الله والفتنة أكبر من القتل, or والفتنة أشد من القتل, in one place. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that, fighting is bad. You're not supposed to do that. So is preventing people from worshipping Allah and disbelieving, and preventing people from Masjid al-Haram and driving out its residents. These are greater in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning that while you're protesting that, your man was killed in Rajab, how about you who have been torturing Muslims for the last 13 years and killing them and preventing them from being able to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? This is something you have to look at too. You're protesting because now it was one strike on the other side. What about all of what you have done as well? And of course, this teaches us that mistakes always happen. But you don't just look at that individual mistake, but you look at the overall record of that person or that group, that what have they done. And in this case, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that what the Quraysh have done for the last 13 years is far worse. It's far worse than what they are now claiming and saying that the Muslims have done. Now, the next thing that happens in the Sha'ban, just the next month after this mission, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answers the dua of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which he did not even publicly mention to anyone. It was just between him and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a deep desire, which was that now the initial Qiblah was towards Jerusalem. But the Prophet ﷺ wanted the Qibla to be the Kaaba. He wanted the Qibla to be Masjid al-Haram. But when he was in Mecca, Kaaba has four sides. So he used to pray towards Bayt al-Maqdis, but he used to stand on the side of the Kaaba, where the Kaaba is in between him and Bayt al-Maqdis. But now that he moved to Medina, and Medina is north of Mecca, and Jerusalem and Bayt al-Maqdis is north of Medina, so it is impossible for the Muslims to face Bayt al-Maqdis and Kaaba at the same time. In fact, they're in the two opposite directions. The Kaaba is to the south and Bayt al-Maqdis is to the north. So if you remember that the masjid that was built facing Bayt al-Maqdis. And then when the Qibla changed, the back of the masjid became the front of the masjid and the front became the back. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted his dua, and he said that now turn your face towards Masjid al-Haram. And it is mentioned that some of the Sahaba were actually praying, and another companion who had just prayed with the Prophet and now came, saw them praying in the direction of Bayt al-Maqdis, which is in Masjid Qiblatain, and he told them that now the Qibla has changed. So during the Salah, while they were praying, the Imam basically turned around and walked from the front of the line all the way in the middle to the back of the line, and everyone else basically they turned around in their spot right then and there. And subhanallah, this is the attitude that we need to have, which is sami'na wa ata'na, that we listen and we obey. Immediately in the salah, he says, I just prayed with the Prophet facing the other direction. The Qibla has been changed. They immediately obey that. However, some of the undercover Jews and some people who were kind of like on the fence, it really touched them, and some of them actually left Islam. The Jews who were basically claiming to be Muslims, now they could not continue to pray to their Qibla, which is Bayt al-Maqdis. So they actually stopped and they went back and they said, no, we're not Muslim anymore because we're not going to pray towards the Kaaba. Now the next thing that happens is the precursors to the Battle of Badr, which was a great milestone for Islam. What happened basically is that the Prophet ﷺ received word, and he had all these missions going all over the area to figure out and get intelligence what's going on. And the Prophet ﷺ was, of course, getting revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, the Prophet ﷺ did not rely on that. He took all the necessary precautions and steps as a person who would not be receiving revelation in order to teach us. And it is said that the Prophet ﷺ had people in Mecca that would inform him about what's going on in Mecca. And among them, some of the scholars say that Abbas bin Abdul Muttalib, the uncle of the Prophet, was perhaps a person who was basically in Mecca, and he did not declare his Islam, but he was providing information to the Prophet ﷺ that, this is what's happening. So the Prophet received information that the Quraysh have now gathered all the belongings left over by Muslims, and they have put that all together in a massive caravan, which will have 1,000 camels, and it will be primarily the stuff that was left behind by the Muslims, and it is guarded by only 40 men, and it is going to be going from Mecca to Syria. The Prophet ﷺ, he got 313 or 317 people, men, from Medina, and they left Medina to go and try to intercept this caravan and retrieve what belongs to them. And of course, war has been really declared already, so this is now economic warfare going on to put pressure on the Meccans. So the Prophet ﷺ left with this 315 or 313 men, and they attempted to get this caravan. However, this caravan was led by Abu Sufyan, who was also a very intelligent man, and he came across some Bedouins, and he asked them that, have you seen anybody here? And he said, yes, there were these two people who stayed under that tree. So Abu Sufyan went there, and he saw the feces of the camels, and Abu Sufyan picked it up, and he basically broke it up in his hand, and he saw inside it seeds of dates. And he immediately realized, he said that no one has enough dates to feed their camel dates except the people of Medina. So it must be that the people of Medina are trying to spy on us. So he basically changed the route, and he went all the way to the coast and followed the coastal route up north. So the Prophet ﷺ missed the caravan the first time around, and then he said, okay, we will try to get it on the way back. So they went to Syria, they traded all that, and they brought a lot more profit back. So he said, okay, we're going to try to get it this time. However, when Abu Sufyan changed his route, he also sent a message to the Meccans and saying that I am being followed by Medina, by the Prophet ﷺ, and I need you to send me immediate help and to defend this caravan. So the Prophet ﷺ then waited at Badr, around Badr. Basically, Badr was a place where it was a caravan stop, like a rest area. And the Prophet ﷺ planned to hide outside of Badr. So when the caravan will come and stop in Badr, where there are wells, they would refill water, they would stay there. It had some trees. So the Prophet ﷺ would then spread out and close all the exits to Badr, and then take over this caravan. However, when they sent a message to Quraysh, the Quraysh sent an army led by Abu Jahl himself. The Prophet ﷺ, they were just 313 or 317 men. The Meccans responded with 1,300 men, all the notable chiefs. All of them came except for Abu Lahab, who sent someone in his place because he was afraid that he was going to get killed because of all of what he had done. Now, when this army was out on the way to meet the Prophet ﷺ, they received news from Abu Sufyan that we are now safe, we have managed to escape, and you don't have to come and fight for us anymore. When this happened, 300 men from Mecca left, and they went back to Mecca, and 1,000 remained. 1,000 remained, and Abu Jahl, of course, leading them, and he said, this is our chance to crush them, to really take revenge for what they have done to us, and let's go and go forward, and we will fight them. When the Prophet ﷺ found this out, he consulted the Sahaba, and when he asked them, what do you think we should do? The Muhajirin were getting up, and they said, we are with you, Ya Rasulullah. But then the Prophet kept asking that question, so the Ansar got the point that the Prophet is asking us, the Ansar, meaning the Muhajirin are there. Of course, they are the ones that were actually hurt by the Meccans. They are motivated. But Ansar have nothing to do with this, and this is not exactly a defensive fight. So are they going to fight, or are they going to say we don't want to participate in this? So the Prophet kept asking until Sa'd ibn Mu'adh got up and he said, Ya Rasulullah, we are not going to be like the people of Musa who said to him that you and your Rabb go and fight and we will stand here. We are saying to you that you and your Rabb go and fight and we are right there behind you. We are right there behind you. And he said, if you plunge into the sea by Allah, we will also plunge in with you, and not a single man among us will lag behind. The Prophet ﷺ was very happy to hear that, and he told them, he said that, let me tell you that Allah has informed me that He will give us one of the two. Either we will get the caravan, or we will get the army and we will win over them, the one that's coming from Mecca. So the Muslim, they set up camp in a place, but one of the companions came and he said, Ya Rasulullah, you have set up camp in this place. Is this a command of Allah, or is this your own strategy? He said, no, this is just my own strategy. He said, then I have a better suggestion, which is that we should go and camp where the wells of Badr are. So when the army comes, we will have control over the water. So they basically took over all the wells that were close together, and some of the wells which were on the other side, they basically filled them up so that there would be the water is not accessible to the Quraysh. And then they basically set the scene and they waited, and the Meccans came. The Meccans came. The Muslims built a shed for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Prophet ﷺ spent the night in prayer, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent light rain, which really refreshed them. And the light rain actually made the ground firm. It wasn't too much rain. It was light rain, which actually made the ground firm and easy to fight on. And then the Muslims, all of them fell asleep. And they fell deep sleep that when they woke up in the morning, they were really refreshed and ready and motivated. The next morning, the armies were face to face, and the Prophet ﷺ was making dua. He said, "Oh Allah, here come the Quraysh in their vanity and arrogance. They deny you and your prophet, and they call your prophet a liar. Fulfill your promise to me. Help us, Ya Allah." And he said, Ya Allah, if this group is destroyed today, the Muslims with me, if they are destroyed, then you will not be worshipped on this earth anymore. And Abu Jahl on the other side, it is said that he was saying, Oh Allah, destroy today the party that seeks to break the familial ties and believes in wrongdoing. Oh Allah, help the party today which is more loved by you. And subhanAllah, that's exactly what happened, that Allah helped the party that was more loved by Him. Now, when the battle began, the Quraysh, 3 people from them came out and they said, who is going to challenge us? Like, individual combat, one by one. This was something that the Arabs used to do, and 3 Ansar came forward. But they said that we don't want you, we want our cousins, we want our relatives. So Hamza radiallahu an and Abu Ubaidah, and not Abu Ubaidah, Ubaidah and Ali ibn Abi Talib, they responded, and all 3 of the Quraysh were killed, while Ubaidah was injured. But they were, and the 3 of Muslims lived, and the 3 of the Quraysh died. So the Quraysh were already down by 3, and the Prophet ﷺ said to Abu Bakr before the charge began, he said, "Rejoice, O Abu Bakr, Allah's help has come. This is Jibreel with his horse's bridle in his hand. His garments are besmeared with dirt and dust." So 1,000 angels came and actually fought with the Muslims. The Prophet ﷺ himself entered the battlefield, and he threw a handful of dust in the eyes of Quraysh, which Allah dispersed in their eyes, on their faces. The Muslims were outnumbered, but they were very, very, very well motivated. And with angels fighting on their behalf, the Quraysh, they charged and they started to fall one after another, and they retreated. They were chased by the Muslims, and they were, as they were being chased, some of them were killed, many of them were captured. It is said that Shaitan himself participated in the battle of Badr on the side of Quraysh, but in the form of Suraka bin Malik. But when he saw the angels, he escaped from there. He escaped from there and ran away because he knew that it would not be good for him. It is mentioned that Abdurrahman ibn Auf is standing in the line just before the battle begins, and he sees two young boys on both of his sides. And these two young boys are saying to him, "Oh, uncle," and these are Ansari boys, right, from Medina. They have never seen Abu Jahl. They are saying to Abdurrahman, "Show us who is Abu Jahl." Abdurrahman said, "What do you have to do with him?" So they said that we have been told that he vilifies the Prophet ﷺ. By him in whose hand my life rests, I shall kill him when I see him, or shall be killed by him. These are the boys saying that we are going to kill him, or we are going to be killed by him. How dare he insult our Prophet ﷺ? So when Abdurrahman ibn Auf saw an opening and he saw Abu Jahl, he said, "You see that man right there? That's Abu Jahl." Immediately these boys, they shot out like arrows, like missiles, aimed directly for Abu Jahl and attacked him fiercely. And afterwards they both went to the Prophet ﷺ and they said that, "Ya Rasulullah, we have killed Abu Jahl. We have killed Abu Jahl." And the Prophet looked at their swords and they were saying that, "I have killed him." The other one was saying, "I have killed him." The Prophet saw and he said that, "You have both killed him." And their names were Mu'adh ibn Arfa and Mu'adh ibn Amr. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. Now these boys, they basically attacked and seriously injured Abu Jahl and left him dying on the battlefield, but he wasn't dead yet. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud saw Abu Jahl and he basically beheaded him and brought that head dragging in dirt and threw it in front of the Prophet ﷺ. And the Prophet ﷺ said, "Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, the enemy of Allah has been killed." And he said that this is the Fir'aun of this ummah. This is the Fir'aun of this ummah. Abu Jahl, while he was being, on his basically dying, and Abdullah ibn Mas'ud was in front of him, he said that, "Couldn't someone more honorable than you be the one to kill me? I don't want to be killed by a farmer boy." Subhanallah. Look at that arrogance. When Abu Jahl was killed, the Quraysh scattered and the battle ended. The Muslims fought against many of their own relatives in this battle. Abbas radiallahu anhu was captured. 70 other leaders of Quraysh were killed, and 70 of them were taken captive. 14 Muslims died, 6 of them were Muhajirin and 8 were Ansar. And then the Prophet ﷺ remained in Badr for 3 days. And some of the bodies of the worst criminals were thrown into a well. And the Prophet ﷺ stayed for 3 days. And before leaving to Medina, he went up to the well where the bodies were. And he said, "Oh, so and so, oh, so and so, do you wish you had obeyed Allah and His Messenger? I have found that what my Lord promised to us is true. Did you find the promise of your Lord to be true?" And the Umar ibn al-Khattab said, "Ya Rasulullah, how can you talk to the bodies which have no souls?" So the Prophet ﷺ said, "They hear me just as you do, but they cannot answer." And that was Battle of Badr. Inshallah, in our next episode, we'll discuss the aftermath and when the news spread and what happened as a result of the criterion the day of Badr was, how it differentiated between the truth and falsehood, and how it really gave Islam and Muslims credibility among the Arabs that they did not have before. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.